So welcome everyone to our second series of 3 talks on Ayurvedic medicine. So different aspects of it. It is a vast subject, mostly in Sanskrit. And since I know that some of your Sanskrit is okay and for others it is not, fortunately it's all been given in English. Hurrah. As you know, Dr. Parthasarathy is an Ayurvedic doctor of great renown. He not only is a very skillful doctor, and all of his exams and things he passed at the highest caliber, he was actually selected by Pujya Swami Dayananda to actually run this clinic entirely, and had the good fortune to treat Swamiji at his clinic in the past. The clinic is located in Anaikatti, which is in South India, near Coimbatore, and near the Kerala border. And it is just a stone's throw from the ashram that Pujya Swami Dayananda ji has down in that area. So it's a lovely place. I've been to it, and I have to say that in time, either early next year or latest early in 23, we will be organizing a group to go down and partake in the treatment down there. So hopefully, if some of you get interested in that, we'll organize it as a World Yoga Festival party, group to go down there, and it'll be lovely for those of you who can make it. All right. Without more ado, I do think very highly of Dr. Parthasarathy. As I said, he's our own doctor. Shonali and I have been treated by him and his team, and they're absolutely fabulous. So I know that his wealth of knowledge is enormous, and I again thank him for the support that he gives us. And thank you for all coming along and wanting to listen to his talk today. So let me hand you over to the good doctor. Welcome, Dr. Parthasarathy. A great time. The audience is all yours.
So thank you so much, Ji. Thanks for the lovely introduction. And so lovely to see so much of you. And many names are like familiar names that I saw in the previous session. Thank you for coming again. So we are going to have 3 sessions, and just as we had our last session, we had 3 topics covered. Similarly, in this session also, we are going to have, in this series also, we are going to have 3 topics covered. So as we go forward, as I start, I'm just going to give you an overview about what is the topic and how are we going to take it forward, and all that is going to be explained. So let us start this session with a small prayer. Sahana vavatu sahanau bhunaktu sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvinabadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Guru Ganeshabhyam Namaha. Ragadi Rogan Satatanushaktan Asheshakaya Prasrutan Asheshan Utsukya Moha Ratidan Jagahan Yo Purva Vaidhyaya Namostu Tasmai. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So, welcome all of you once again to start this series. So the first session that we are going to have is about seasons. As you would have read and as you are expecting, the first topic is to understand the seasons. So once we have understood the flow and the logic of the various seasons and what it does to us and how do we respond to the season, once we understand all this, then in the second session we are going to dive deep into the concept of food that is associated with seasons. That is, what is that we'll have to have in this season, what should be avoided, what should be advised, all that connections and interlinked concepts between food and seasons are to be dealt in the second session. And when we go to the third session, we are going to see various rules in dietetics that Ayurveda advocates. So the aim of these three sessions are to have a broader understanding about the concept of food. It is not just telling, okay, this food is good, this food is bad. That is how many a times we try to search. That is how we try to understand food. We try to understand what is good food and what is bad food. We try to avoid good food and consume too much of, we try to avoid bad food and try to consume this good food as much as possible. So we are going to break that norm, which is not the right way to approach food. So this is going to give you a bigger picture of approaching food, and you will be realizing or you will be experiencing whatever we are going to study in these three sessions. It will be easily implemented and you will be realizing or experiencing the benefits out of it if you can follow that. So this is the overview of this series. So to start with seasons, you all know that you will be knowing that 4 seasons. You might not realize that there are 6 seasons explained in Ayurveda, because you are familiar with, most of you should be familiar with winter, spring, summer, and autumn, is what I presume. But Ayurveda understands or explains 6 seasons. It is not just 4. And 2 months together makes 1 season. So similarly, 12 months of the year is divided into 6 seasons. We'll try to understand what these 6 seasons are. Don't be worried about the Sanskrit terminologies that you see here as Hemanta, Shishira, Vasanta, Grishma, Varsha, Sharad. I've just mentioned it because I just don't want to lose the charm of it just by translating. Let the word be here, but no matter you understand Sanskrit or don't understand Sanskrit, I'll make sure that the Sanskrit terminologies are not bothering you. Okay. If at all you have any doubts in between, please write on the chat box. I'm having my chat box open. So if that is, I will address the doubt right away. If not, the doubts will be kept for the end. So winter, spring, summer, and autumn. You all will be accepting that this is the trend. Maybe starting with winter, you'll have a long winter. Then the sun just slowly comes up and it's the most beautiful time of the year. Then the sun that came up little bit and made you enjoy in the spring, then that sun gets stronger, much more stronger, and that is what we enjoy as summer or experience as summer. Then you must be knowing that, okay, the temperature goes down, but it is still warm. It's not cold, it is still warm, and that is autumn. And maybe you will see many of the trees shedding its leaf and things like that. These are the 4 common seasons that you must be knowing or you would have experienced. Let us see how Ayurveda expands this 4 seasons into 6 seasons. Winter is divided into Ayurveda divided into 2 seasons when it comes to the seasonal understanding of Ayurveda. That is Hemanta and Shishira. Maybe to put it across simply, we can consider it as early winter, late winter. We all must be knowing that winter is the longest season of the year. I hope you all agree with me. It is the same in UK too. Is that right? Can you confirm in the chat box? Yes, I can see the faces. Yes. So winter is the longest period of the year. How long does winter last in UK?
Forever.
The proper winter? Proper winter, meaning the most cold period. Someone in the chat box? 3 to 4 months, 4 months, lovely. Yes. Yeah. 4 months. So you see, even when we see it from an Ayurvedic perspective, the early winter, maybe we can consider it as 2 months, and the late winter, we can consider it as 2 months. So winter stays for 4 months. Then this is Hemanta and Shishira. We're going to see season by season what is the phenomenon that is happening in that season. I'm just setting up the platform for a discussion. I'm just warming up you for the discussion. So gradually the warmth sets in. This Vasanta, or the spring season, is the most beautiful season, and just setting up the stage or just warming up, what is the most unique thing that you see around you in this season, in spring season? What is the speciality of this season? Spring. What attracts you exactly? Flowers. Flowers blossom. Flowers blooming. Yeah. So you can understand there is a phenomenon happening. There are a lot of flowers. Now, as we go forward, maybe in the next session, you will understand why flowers are blooming in this season. Next season, Grishma, which is the summer, what is predominantly available in summer? I understand that your summers are so small. It's just maybe sometimes it can be just few days, I believe, summers. But when we cross spring season, when the temperature furthermore soars up, what is predominantly available in nature? Sunshine, fruits and berries. All these flowers have turned into fruits. So there is a trend. I hope you understand the trend. Okay. So even in summers, even in UK, by the end of summers or in between summers, you would be experiencing some rains that is happening. Do you agree with me? Yeah. Approximately. And rains are concentrated, mostly happening around this time. Between summer and autumn, or during summer and autumn season, or between summer and autumn season, you enjoy some rains. Do you agree with me? Because I need your help, because you're going to, yes. So during the rainy season, one important thing that we'll have to understand is the temperature drops down in rainy season. Okay. The temperature drops down in rainy season, but the temporary drop in the temperature is the drop in the temperature is temporary. It's not a permanent drop in temperature as it happens in winter, because the temporary drop in temperature is because of the water all around us and the sun rays are being blocked by the clouds. Agree? When the clouds have moved apart, when the water around you is dried up, what happens? The temperature rises. Agree? Is that right? Fine. And when the temperature soars up, rises, that is our autumn. Okay. So now, is it understandable or acceptable that, okay, we can agree that Ayurveda 6 seasons are in tune with our understanding of 4 seasons. Do you agree with that? Is there any difficulty in agreeing that 6-season explanation of Ayurveda? Is anyone having difficulty to accept there are 6 seasons? You're all okay with this concept of 6 seasons to start with? Yeah, all clear. Wonderful. So, yes, of course, I'm going to explain you season by season. This is going to be the core of our discussion, but I need still more warming up and still more preparation. I need to understand why we are all sitting here. How are we going to make use of this session and the coming sessions? What is the necessity to understand the seasons and follow the regimen according to the seasons? So many times what happens is, when we try to explain this seasons, concept of seasons, to non-Indians, they have a question or they have a doubt that these 6 seasons or this flow of 6 seasons are suitable only for India. It might not suit us in the UK, it might not suit us in the US, it might not suit us in Europe. That is a common misconception or a wrong perception that people have. What is explained as seasonal regimen in Ayurveda is for Indians. Why should we follow that? Might be a common misconception or a doubt that people would have. We'll try to break that myth. So I'm going to tell you that this concept of 6 seasons, that is each season consisting of 2 months, is not seen anywhere in India also. Nowhere in India we can see 6 seasons with 2 months each. It is impossible. Okay, because many of you would have traveled to India, you would have known a lot about India, that within 50 kilometers or 100 kilometers, the diversity is so much that everything changes. Food, habits, lifestyle, language, clothing, culture, everything changes within 50, 100 kilometers. That diverse the country is. So in such a diverse country, nowhere you will be seeing sharp 2 months forming 6 seasons. So this 2 months making up 6 seasons is not a airtight compartmentalized understanding even for India. So it need not be a similar, you cannot expect a similar 2 months forming a season in your country. So the conclusion is that this 2 months making up a season and all the explanation that we are going to have will have to make us understand the pattern of the 6 seasons and the logic behind the 6 seasons. And you will be realizing in few minutes that this pattern or this logic of the 6 seasons are common world over, or the same world over. For example, I was telling you, starting from winter, and what will happen after spring? The temperature rises and you call it a summer, and there are rains in between. There is a temporary drop in temperature, and after the rains are gone, the clouds have moved apart, the temperature rises again, that is autumn. Then naturally winters set in. So this is a trend. This trend does not change. Primarily, this is the trend world over. Maybe extremes, when you are so far apart from the equator, there can be some extremes. But even in the extremes, you will be seeing these seasons are fused. Maybe they will enjoy just 2 or 3 seasons. Just to give you an example, if anyone is from Brazil here, I know more of Brazil because I've been there many a times. So seasons, for example, when you go to the northeast of Brazil, you'll see there is just winter, summer. The summers are long, the winters are short. You cannot perceive one particular season vividly in regions like João Pessoa and northeast region of Brazil. Similarly, in many countries, in some particular part of the country, the seasons might not be having a clear flow, but it might be mixed up and merged, so that you will perceive only 2 or 3 seasons, not even 4. Okay, I assume that you are following what I am talking about. It's understandable. Okay, so we understand that there is a pattern. There are a lot of changes happening outside. When we see outside, in each season, there are a lot of changes. When there are a lot of changes happening outside, then there are a lot of changes happening inside us also, because Ayurveda also talks about the concept of microcosm and macrocosm. We call it as Andanda and Pindanda. That is Loka and Purusha. Loka is the universe, Purusha is the person. Loka and the Purusha, universe and human being, are one and the same. There are no differences. That is a big presentation. Universe is a magnified presentation of a person. That's the concept of microcosm and macrocosm. Even microcosm, macrocosm is a concept of modern philosophy too. So Ayurveda's philosophy also talks about the connection between the man and the universe. When you talk about yoga, for example, it's a right thing to talk in a community of World Yoga Festival, where there are a lot of yoga related people. When we talk about yoga, yujyate anena iti yogaha. Yuj is the union. Union of what? You can maybe consider it as the union of body and mind, but on a larger picture, in a bigger picture, it is the union of Jivatma and Paramatma. Jivatma, you know what is Jivatma, and Paramatma, the supreme. Jivatma, my Jiva, the Atma, my Atma is merged with the supreme Atman, that is Paramatma. So yoga also talks about that union between the microcosm and macrocosm in a bigger picture. I would tell. I'm not going deep into it, but I'm just trying to make this correlation so that you are understanding this better. So when there are changes happening on the outside environment, there are definitely changes happening in our inside environment also. Do you all agree with that point? Is there any contradiction that how can this happen? If you have that contradiction, yes, I'm going to clarify that with the point by point explanation. But are everyone convinced with the point that when there are changes happening around us, there are changes happening inside us also? Yes, there are good affirmations. Thank you. So when such changes are happening around us, when we agree that there are changes happening inside, there is a definite need to modify our dietary regimen and our lifestyle regimen according to the changes that is happening. It's logically understandable that when there are changes happening inside us, we will have to modify the way we live in terms of dietary practices and in terms of lifestyle practices also. So having said that, it is not appropriate to tell you, okay, summers, do this, don't do this. Winters, do this, don't do this. This kind of information is available in the internet. Do this, don't do this. Eat this, don't eat this. That's not our intention. Our intention is not to give you information, to give you wisdom or knowledge. That is the whole intention. There is a huge difference between information, wisdom, and knowledge. I think you would have heard about this verse, one of the verse from one poet called Eliot, T.S. Eliot. Maybe I'm not pronouncing it correctly. T.S. Eliot. mentioned it in the chat box. Sorry. So in one of his sayings, we see that I'm not using the same words as he has used, but in search of information, we have lost our knowledge. In search of knowledge, we have lost our wisdom. So now in this modern world, we are all stuck up with this. We are all stuck in the process of getting information. So this getting this information, it's an information overload, which has ruined our knowledge. And in the process, we have our wisdom is also lost. So this intention of this workshop or whatever discussions that we are going to have is to give you the wisdom and not information. So we need to understand how the season unfolds itself, what are the changes that is happening, and so what we should do to compensate the changes that is happening around us and change the changes that happen inside us. So that is going to be the mission of this series. Okay, so when we talk about lifestyle regimen is primarily based upon the strength of the person. So here we can come to a conclusion that the strength of the person is modified in different seasons. In different seasons, the strength of the person gets altered. For example, in winter season, a strength or the capability of the person is excellent. Whereas in summer or rainy season, the strength of the person is going to be the poorest. We are going to understand why, how. We are not just going to understand, you're going to realize. You're going to look back your experiences and you're going to realize that, yes, it is correct. You're going to affirm that, yes, it is correct. And when we talk about dietary changes that are advised in different seasons, the dietary changes are focused on the digestive power of a person. So we are getting a confirmation that the digestive power of the person is also not the same in all seasons. It gets modified or altered in all seasons. Season by season, it gets modified and altered. Okay. Just what is the need for us to follow this seasonal regimen? So I have just put out 3 questions. I can put so many questions, but I'm just bringing on some 3 questions, and I've written the evident answers for this question also. But do we change the way in which we dress in different seasons? That is, in winter season, we dress differently. The clothes that we use are different. In summers, the clothing that we use. The answer is yes. I hope all of you agree with this. Our dressing style or the way we dress up differs in winter and summer. You can see the profile image of Ramji. He's having a jerkin. He cannot wear this jerkin in summers. So we can evidently understand that the picture was taken in a winter season. I'm just a casual point just to make you come into the topic. Similarly, our food preferences are different in different seasons. Agree? If it is a hot, sunny day, for example, last time in 2019, when we were in the yoga festival, when the temperature raised, when it was a hot day, we could see there was a lined up queue in front of this smoothie and juice counter. I hope you can recollect this back. Okay. Whereas this Indian restaurants where they served hot, spicy dosas and things like that, especially in the afternoons, this hot, spicy food, this North Indian food that were kept in one of the counters. Those counters were not that busy when the day is very warm, hot, and sunny, especially in the midday. Why? We have an inclination to choose food depending upon the climate outside. Our food preferences are different. For example, if it is a cold winter, will you be preferring to take a juice or a smoothie or things like that? Rather, you'll prefer something warm, hot, heavy to digest. Correct? You'll have an inclination to have heavy to digest food. The body will crave for something heavy to digest, like cheese and stuff like that. Okay. So, do we have different food preferences in different seasons? The evident answer is yes. Did our ancestors follow varied diet regimen? Maybe can I wait for your answers? Your ancestors in England, your grandparents, your great grandparents, did they have a varied diet pattern? Did they have a specific diet for specific season? They eat with the seasons. Why? They had, yes. The answer is yes. There are affirmations. But why exactly? Because they were in tune with nature. They were consuming what was available around them. There were not availability. They were following the concept of availability. What is available around them, they were consuming. They did not have this curse of globalization. Globalization is a curse when it comes to the concept of food and health. Globalization has done a lot of things. If the globalization did not happen, we are not having this discussion. We are not having this technology. We are not having this discussion. Yes, globalization is good on so many fronts. But when it comes to health and food, globalization was definitely a curse. Fortunately, they did not have this globalization. They were parallel with the nature. They were following nature parallelly, so that what was available around them was their dietary pattern. And of course, every season had its own unique producers. And in each region, the producers differed. In winter of Tamil Nadu, in South India, what we get will not be available in the winter of North India, because Tamil Nadu's winter's degree or intensity is different. North India's winter degree intensity is different. So according to the intensity of the weather outside, we had or we still have various producers. Okay. So the third point is also agreed. Our ancestors did not have a standard food regimen. They had a varied food regimen. But is it right to eat the same food round the year? Having agreed all these 3 points, now my question is it right to eat the same food round the year? No, definitely not. We should not consume the same food round the year. But are we consuming the same food round the year? Are we consuming? A frank truth, yes. Unfortunately, we are all consuming the same food round the year. We have standardized our breakfasts. Okay, this is my breakfast. People, when we ask people, what do you eat? They just, in half a page, they finish mentioning everything. This is my breakfast. This is my 11 o'clock snack. This is my lunch. And this is pretty much my dinner. We have standardized things because we believe that, okay, this is good. Previously, we believed that, okay, oats, this is the good food. Then, okay, add this into it. Add chia seeds into it. Chia seeds and oats. Add nuts into it. Add this seed into that seed into it. Add coconut oil because coconut oil is being promoted as the best. So we have standardized, okay, this is going to be my breakfast, and we continue until we hear about some new food coming in. For example, someone has mentioned about fruits. Fruits. Does nature give fruits in winter? Definitely not. Maybe nature might give some specific fruits in winter that is required. But if you see the period when the fruits are available in abundance, it is close to summer. So what do we understand? We understand that when the fruits are available in abundance, the nature is directing you to eat those fruits. And as a continuation to the third question I have mentioned here, our ancestors were much healthier than how we are. Certainly, we have to agree to this point. They hardly had a necessity to wear a at age 60 and 70. They had a much better health. Quality of life was much better. Yes, of course, we can bring in lot of factors like pesticides. Their food did not have pesticides. It was not polluted that much. All this is acceptable. But the major point is that they lived parallel with the season. So they were consuming the food that was available in the season, and the season gave what was necessary for you. There is a beautiful synergy between what is available and what is required. That is going to be the core of our understanding in this session and the next session. We're going to realize the synergy between what is available and what is necessary. If something is necessary for us, it will be available around us, or forget about that. What is available around you is the most necessary item for you at that particular time. Okay, so we are going to see that and realize that. So is it, until now, hope it is understandable. Is it too much or too complicated? Can I go in the same pace? Can few of you give an affirmation? Can I go in the same pace? Understandable? Good, thank you. Thank you so much. So starting from here, you can see Hemanta, early winter, then late winter, then spring, then comes summer, then comes rainy season, and then comes autumn season. So we all have agreed that it is acceptable, or we all have accepted this trend is common even in the UK, correct? Maybe you might not have a specific season for rains, but there is a season where the temperature drops down during summer. Okay, you have agreed to that, and you have told that maybe the duration of rainy season or the intensity of rainy season can be small, or the intensity of summer can be small. Intensity and duration of the winter can be long. We totally agree that this kind of customizations or some expansions and reductions in the duration of seasons happens in India too. So even India is not an exception for it. So that happens in the UK as well. In UK, in the United Kingdom, in different areas, there can be some modifications between two cities, between two areas of the United Kingdom. Also, you will be seeing some variations. Even if you are from any other country, you will be seeing some variations happening. But what we have to agree, what we have to understand at this point is that this trend is relatable. Are you able to relate this trend? Early winter, late winter, spring, summer, rainy season, temporary drop of temperature in rainy season, then the temperature soars up again little bit, and then winter sets in. Okay, I take it for granted that you agree this trend to be relatable to your country too. So let us go with first with early winter or Hemanta. So everything around us is, the temperature is cold. The environment around us is too, maybe in India it is cold, maybe in the UK it is too cold. When the temperature is low, when it is too cold around you, what will happen to your body? Any guess? What happens to your digestive system? Any guess? Will the body slows down? What slows down? Maybe there are mixed answers. Someone tells that I feel eating more, the body slows down. Metabolism slows down. Not really. Not really. Maybe I'm going to explain that. Eat more food. Yes, there are lot of answers are you feel like eating more food. Someone has mentioned that one has to work harder. Yes. You need more food. Yes. One or two answers are there that metabolism slows down. Actually, the metabolism doesn't slow down if you are in tune, if you are parallel with the phenomenon of winters. So what happens here is the climate around us, the temperature around us is low. So the body tries to compensate with the outside coldness. The body will try to preserve its heat. The body has its own heat. The body tries to preserve its heat. Body will not yield to the external coldness. The heat will be preserved. The methodology of preserving this heat is blocking all the tissue pores. No sweating happening. All the tissue pores are blocked. The heat is preserved. This preserved heat kindles the factor called Agni, or the digestive fire. Okay, we have something called Agni. From a modern perspective, we understand that is from a Western perspective or an allopathy perspective, science perspective, we understand that digestion is taken care by the digestive juices. But from an Ayurvedic perspective, we consider a factor called Agni, or the digestive fire. A fire-like factor is responsible for digestion. I don't want to go deep into the aspect of what this digestive fire is. It is not necessary for us. If you can understand, or if you can agree to a factor that, okay, there is a digestive fire which is responsible for digestion, that is enough. Maybe as we go forward, you will understand this fire concept little more better. Okay. So the body has preserved its heat because it has to compensate with the coldness outside. Body cannot make itself colder. Sweating doesn't happen. Does sweating in the winter reduce your digestive fire? No, let me explain it. Sweating doesn't happen so that the body's heat is not dissipated outside. Whereas in Grishma Ritu or summer, lot of sweating happens and the body heat is dissipated outside. Okay. So in winters, the body heat is not dissipated outside. The heat is preserved by the sweat pores being blocked. So the preserved heat goes and activates the digestive fire. So the digestive fire of a person is very strong in this period. When the digestive fire is very strong, one has to satisfy the digestive fire. When you don't satisfy the digestive fire has a capability to destroy the substratum also, which in Ayurveda, in Sanskrit, it is explained as Dhatu Paka. If at all you are like people who are studying Ayurveda and if you have connections with Sanskrit, then it is called as Dhatu Paka. Dhatu are the physical structures or the elemental structures of the body, the structural elements of the body. Dhatu Paka is a structural damage. Okay, we see people, especially people who try to do this weight loss regimen, dietary practices, that is reducing their food intake in the winter season, you'll be seeing they will be having some repercussions. They'll be struggling with unusual weight loss. They'll be going so weak to the extent that they'll go and meet some physicians and get some B12 shots. They will end up with anemia. These are all common things. If you know someone who did some drastic dieting in winters, or if you remember someone who did drastic dieting in winter season, you know that they would have ended up suffering. The suffering would be because of this factor or phenomenon called dhatu paka, which is a destruction of dhatus or the destruction of the structural elements. This is like a factor that when the fire is very strong, when you don't give proper, I'm just giving a metaphor, when you don't give proper fuel to the fire will destroy the substrata. Okay, the fire will go ablaze. So it's very strong. When the digestive power is very strong, we need to feed the digestive fire with proper food. If not, it is destructive. So one direct take home message is, of course, it's just a superficial message. You're going to get a detailed insight about this. I'm just giving one pointer. Maybe we will have more clarity on these pointers as we go forward. But the pointer is that you cannot afford to diet in winter season. You can think about your winter, you will have a lot of craving for heavy foods like cheese and sweets and things like that. And in India, or take whichever country, all the eating festivals will fall in winter season. Okay, all the festivals, that is a tradition. Our tradition is nothing but our undocumented Ayurveda. Ayurveda is a documentation of tradition, but in a systematic way. Tradition is an undocumented Ayurveda, I would tell. So all the traditions that you have are on the basis of this Ritucharya. I don't know what your tradition is. I don't know much of your tradition, but I'm sure that each and every tradition will follow this cycle of Ritucharya. Because Ritucharya, your ancestors did not come to India to understand what this Ritucharya in this most difficult language, Sanskrit. No, not really. But they were in tune with the nature. They were having a beautiful synergy with the nature. So they were following this Ritucharya pattern. We have lost our connection with the nature. So we need this Ayurveda support to get back to the nature. And hence we are studying this concept of seasons and the regimen that we have to follow in different seasons. Okay. So we have an inclination to eat heavy foods. We have an inclination to eat heavy items. And there is a necessity in this season to work out. There is a necessity to work out. There is a necessity to keep yourself away from the coldness. Okay. You will see the explanation of Ayurveda documented thousands and thousands of years before, that you can live in an underground cellar which is warmed up by firewood. Okay, underground cellar meaning which is warm, which is a warm area which doesn't have ventilation, non-ventilated underground room. And the room can be warmed up with firewoods, like your fireplace. You can live in that environment. Do not expose to coldness to the extent that use footwears. Cover your foot completely. Don't expose your foot. Don't expose to the external weathers. Be protected. Do a lot of physical activity. You have a provision to do physical activity. You have a provision to have alcohol. Alcohol is permissible in this season. Not that alcohol is promoted, but there is a permissibility for alcohol. And I'm just making you realize, I'm just giving you the connections and making you connected with the topic, making you understand better. I'm just giving few examples. You can see the nature will provide a lot of heavy to digest food stuff in this season. If the climate is getting colder and colder, what is available in nature? Can someone come up with things that is available in nature when the climate is cold? Vegetable produces, root vegetables, excellent. Potatoes, vegetables that grow underground, it's available. in plenty. Agree? So when the climate gets colder, the heavy to digest vegetables, that is the root vegetables, are available in nature. So the nature is directing you to eat heavy foods. The nature gives you, if at all you have sugarcane cultivation there, if at all you have rice cultivation there, you will see the harvest will be around this time. Sugarcane harvest, rice harvest will be around this time. You will see the nature is directing you to eat heavy foods. When the when the climate gets more cold, will direct you towards animals. There are nothing available on ground. If it is completely snowy, like in Russia or in some extreme climates, if it is too much of snow outside, you don't have even those potatoes. So what is the nature? The nature is directing you to eat animals. Again, Ayurveda is not promoting non-vegetarianism, but Ayurveda is a Ayurveda, though being a part of Vedas, which promote lot of vegetarianism, which promote non-vegetarian as something harmful. Ayurveda is an extension of these Vedas, but still non-vegetarianism is inclusive because Ayurveda is for every single living being on earth. It is not for one sect of people. So you have explanations about non-vegetarian food also in Ayurveda. So this nature is directing you to animals. This is the reason. If you see a country which is having predominance of winters, you'll see that country to have the habit of taking a lot of potatoes, that country having a habit of indulging or having a habit of taking a lot of meat. The more colder the country is, more stronger the meat eating habits are. The more hotter the country is, the meat eating habit reduces. You just think about the countries that you know, you will realize this. And also, more colder the country is, more minimum the spice usage is. If you see hot countries like India, the amount of spices that we use are so much. But when the country is colder, the food becomes bland. The more colder the country is, the more bland the food is. You all agree with me? I hope you can realize what I'm telling. The more colder the country is, the more stronger is the alcohol socialization, alcohol habituation of alcohol. Having a cup of wine or things like that, it's a common practice. But in a country like India, it is something, if someone is having alcohol, it is something, it's a defaming thing. In countries like Gulf countries, United Arab Emirates, in Muslim countries where the climate is so hot, having alcohol is a haram. By law, it is prohibited. You see how culture has evolved. So all this evolution of culture or tradition is based upon the seasonal understanding, and that is what we are realizing and exploring. So the nature is directing us to eat more. And I'm finishing with one more last point for you to relate. We have a lot of cows in India. You have a lot of cows in the UK also. In the whole of this big country, India, you all must be knowing that there is only one variety of cheese, that is paneer. You must be knowing paneer, which is called as cottage cheese, I believe. In the whole of the country, there is only one variety of cheese, which is a tradition, that too in a very small part of India where the climate is more cold in nature. The coldest part of India. Paneer is the only variety of cheese in the tradition. We are allergic to cheeses. But in a country like UK, you know how many varieties of cheeses you have, how you relish your cheese. Okay. You have cows in both the countries. We have same milk, but we prepare ghee out of it, and you prepare cheese out of it. Because in our country, because of the heat of the country, the digestion is slightly compromised compared to your country. In a compromised digestive scenario, if we eat a heavy to digest cheese, we are not going to handle it. We cannot digest cheese in India. But we can have ghee, which enhances the digestive power. Ghee enhances the digestibility. It improves the digestion. So that is our culture, our tradition. You don't prepare ghee. You don't have a tradition to prepare ghee. I assuming that you all know what ghee is. It is called as clarified butter. You don't prepare ghee. Many of you don't know what it is, what a ghee is, because it is not required for you. The climate is requiring cheese, country is predominantly cold. As someone, when I asked you how long is your winter, someone told it's always a winter here. That strong your winter is, that strong your cold weather is. So that is how the tradition has evolved. So the winter directs you to eat cheeses. The winter directs you to eat heavy food, provided you are healthy. All this advice that we are discussing is for a healthy person. A person who is obese with all metabolic disorders cannot take this as an excuse and dump himself with cheese and heavy to digest food. There should be a moderation, of course. Okay, there is a provision to do a lot of exercise. You will be seeing a person who is used to this kind of a weather, which is predominantly cold. They have a lot of inclination to physical activity. They can handle physical activity so well. Okay, so slowly we are moving on to the spring. Spring season, as I'll have to explain about the Shishira, the late winter. Late winter, what happens is the coldness gets more stronger. The coldness gets more stronger, and we have to follow the same regimen that has been explained in the Hemanta, that is early winter. So to conclude, both the seasons, early winter and late winter, the regimen explained in Ayurveda is almost the same. There is not much of a difference. There is a technical specification between this early winter and late winter. I don't think that is necessary for us, and it might be too complicated for you. I want to give an appropriate dosage. I don't want to give too much. Too much information is also will go undigested, indigestion, ama. So I don't want to give too much of information. We have to have a right dosage to get that proper wisdom that is expected out of these 3 sessions. So gradually after winter, the temperature rises. The temperature rises. There is a beautiful explanation. You can, it's a poetic explanation, as we can read in the Shastra in Sanskrit. That is Manikutti Makantishu. The Sanskrit verse goes like that, the whole world is seen as though the whole nature is adorned with jewelry like gold, diamond, and gems. The whole environment seems as though they are wearing some jewelry. That beautiful the weather is. Spring. You can think about your spring season, lot of flowers around you, and the sun is coming out after a long time. It is so bright, coppery red rays. That is the way in which it is explained. You see the coppery red rays, sun rays, and the place looks wonderful. The most beautiful season. But unfortunately, this is not a most enjoyable season in terms of health. Okay. There is a specific mentioning here that one has to immediately address the changes that is happening in a person during the season. There is an immediate action required when we reach spring season. Okay, I'm going to explain what that immediate action is, why we have to take that action, what happens. Not many of you will understand what the factor kapha is. So it will be too much if I explain what kapha is. There are 3 doshas like vata, pitta, and kapha. I don't want to dilute telling that, okay, vata is air, pitta is fire, kapha is water. I don't want to dilute this. maybe it is better I don't tell, because understanding Vata, Pitta, Kapha is the core of Ayurveda. One cannot just tell, okay, translate Vata into one word, Pitta into another word, and Kapha similarly. No, it's the core of Ayurveda. So there is a phenomenon called Kapha, which has got slightly increased or susceptible because of the coldness outside. Excuse me. The coldness outside, the experience of the cold weather in the winter season created a increase of a factor called kapha. You can just imagine that there is a factor called kapha for now. This slightly susceptible kapha got aggravated because of the heat. The phenomenon is just like the ice gets melted and there is an excessive flow of water. For example, in the Himalayas, in the winters, there is a lot of glacier and ice accumulated. When the temperature increases, the rivers are so strong, the rivers are so violent in summers. Usually in summers, the rivers should be dry, but the rivers are violent because all the ice gets melted and there is an excessive flow. Similarly, the introduction of heat to the body makes up for the liquefaction of the factor kapha, which creates a disturbance in a person. The disturbance is that there is a sudden decrease in the digestive capability of a person. A person's digestive capability gets suddenly destroyed, not destroyed, depleted in this season. So there is a disturbance of factor kapha. This kapha factor getting disturbed can lead to lot of respiratory issues. If there are some medical practitioners here or healthcare workers here, you must be knowing that people will have lot of respiratory issues when the spring sets in. You remember, even in our family, we will have, after the cold, in all cold winter, we will not have any problem. But after cold, when the temperature rises, we will have a lot of common cold, flu, and we will relate it to pollen allergy. I'm sorry. We'll relate it to pollen allergy. Can you all, yeah, hay fever, sinus issues, all these kapha related factors, sinusitis, heaviness in the head, nasal block, running nose, all this sets in the spring season. And the reason for that is the kaphas increase, the factor kapha getting increased. And the reason for the factor kapha to be increased is the sudden exposure of heat after a long cold exposure. That causes, from winter to spring, I also feel strange. Yes, there are a lot of affirmations. Yes, though the climate is so enjoyable outside, you don't enjoy a good status of health. You should be, you can recollect your spring season. It's a nagging, there'll be some nagging issues happening. You'll have nasal, running nose and things like, you feel like going and enjoying the nature, but you will not be in a position to enjoy that nature. Some nagging problem will always be there because there is a sudden disturbance or a damage that happens to the agni or the strength of the person. So the Shastra, Ayurveda Shastra explains, atastam tvaraya jayet, immediately address to that. How to address immediately? There should be a dramatic change in our eating pattern. What these dramatic change in the eating patterns are? That eating pattern changes are the second topic. We are going to just focus food according to season. That is going to be a second topic. However, I connected lot of food with seasons when we were discussing winter, just to make you realize that I just gave some examples. But here again, giving you some examples. The Shastra, Ayurveda explains one, to have honey to compensate this increase of kapha. What does honey do? If you are associated with Ayurveda, if you know a little bit about Ayurveda, you know that honey is a very good factor, a very good substance that is helpful in handling kapha or reducing kapha, or it helps in kapha reduction, honey. That is the reason these people take honey for weight loss and metabolic disorders. People take honey because there is a relationship. Okay. The Shastra explains one has to take honey, one has to take water boiled with ginger, etc. in this season. We are going to discuss food exclusively in the next session. I'm just giving you a feeler. I'm just making you enjoy it. So when honey is, what does nature do? Nature gives an abundance of flowers so that honey is available in abundance. See the synergy. Do you understand the synergy? There are lot of flowers available in the nature, and if flowers are available, honey is available in plenty. There are no fruits available because you cannot afford to eat sweet substances other than honey in this season, because there is a kapha related factor. And one important thing when it comes to regimen, the most important thing in this season is that one should exercise. You cannot compromise on exercising. We have had what is a proper exercise. I had mentioned this point in our previous sessions when we were discussing about exercises, that one has to exercise in spring season because the factor kapha demands exercise. This exercise will compensate this kapha disturbance that is happening. So in the beginning, I told you, we have to do something. We have to do something to address this kapha. What do we do to address this kapha? We have to immediately act. How do we act immediately? Immediately acting is that we do some exercises. We don't compromise on exercises. One more thing, when we were discussing about sleep, if you were one of the participants of our previous series, when it comes to sleep or when it comes to day sleep, there is one important specification that we had discussed. When one can have day sleep, one should never have a day sleep. Does anyone remember? When does nature give us a provision for day sleep? When does nature prevent us from day sleep? Anyone who attended? Yes. In summer gives us a provision for day sleep. You are going to understand why in few minutes when we reach summer. And spring is the season when one should definitely avoid day sleep. In winters, of course, apart from summer, day sleep is not advisable. Apart from summer, one should not sleep. But when it comes to spring, it's a hard and fast rule that even by mistake sleeping during the day in spring season is problematic, because kapha dosha is highly problematic in this season. So when it comes to regimen, don't sleep during the day, do a lot of exercise, and expose to the sun judiciously. What people tend to do is they tend to expose themselves when the sun is out after a long winter. They go and expose and enjoy the sun as though there is no tomorrow. There is a tendency, some people do it. When you do that, your kapha disturbance gets more stronger. So exposing to the sun in winter, in spring season is a problem. You can expose yourself judiciously. Judiciously meaning not directly in the sun, indirectly in the sun, not basking in the sun. All that should not be done. However, if at all there is sun available or seen in winter season, which is the case in India, we get sun even in winter. I'm not sure if that is so in your country. In India, yes, sun is seen in winter also. You can enjoy the sun in winter, but do not enjoy sun in spring season. That's a big mistake. Okay, I hope you understand what winter is, how do we identify winter, what happens in the body during winter, and what we should do, what we should not do, what we should eat, what we should not eat, Yes, next session, next week, we are going to discuss in detail. Okay, then the spring gets into summer. That is, the sun gets much stronger. When the sun gets much stronger, what happens to the digestive fire? Can someone tell? With the discussion that we had, you need not think anything different. You need not imagine. Weak Agni. Agni reduces further. Can someone tell the logic? Just a superficial logic. Less hunger. Very good. Yes, logic. Yes. It is an opposite phenomenon of winter. When the climate around us is very hot, the body tries to compensate with the heat of the extremities, heat of the nature. So the body will dissipate all its heat. The body will dissipate all its heat by sweating. Okay? Body tries to adjust with the external temperature. Body will leave out all its heat. So there is a cool phenomenon. The body tends to get colder internally. That coldness goes and extinguishes the digestive fire. Okay? So it's an opposite phenomenon of winter. Okay? But there is a fix. We are in a fix. There is a catch-22 situation here in summer. The catch-22 situation is the energy, all of our energy is being sucked by the sun. The sun's powerful rays sucks out all our energy. You know, in a modern language, I can call it as dehydration. You think about a day when you have to do a lot of work in winter. Think about a day when you have to do a lot of work in the summer. Summer, your ability to work is less because your energy is drained by the sun. I hope all of you should agree with me. Okay? The energy is drained in summer. So when I am drained of my energy, what I should do? I have to recoup my energy. I should get my energy back. To get my energy back, I have to eat. Correct? I have to eat to get my energy back. But when I am going to eat, I don't have a capability to digest it well. If I am not digesting it well, I am not getting my appropriate energy, because what I am eating is not important. How is it getting digested and how am I getting that food into energy is the most important thing. Agree? So the catch or the fix here is, I'm so drained. I need energy. And if I eat for the sake of energy, if I eat all nutrient rich food for the sake of energy, my digestive fire is so weak here, which cannot digest the so-called nutrient rich food. So I don't get energy. Instead, I end up with indigestion. Did you all understand this? Is it complicated? Can someone tell, is it understandable? The pace is okay? Yes? Good. Good. So nice. Wow. Very nice. Thank you. So we are literally in a fix. So Ayurveda is suggesting certain things to be done in this season to manage this scenario. To manage this situation, there are a set of regimen that Ayurveda gives. The most important thing is that we don't have a provision to exercise because the body is already drained. If you are going to exercise further on, people who have attended the previous sessions, when we told that exercise is contraindicated in Grishma Ritu, summer, you get more clarity with this discussion. When it is summer, you're already drained, and you don't have a good working plan to get your energy back because your Agni is weak. If you further do exercise and strain yourself, you are going to deteriorate yourself. Okay? Of course, exposing to the sun, already the sun is scorching you and draining you left, right, and center. If you expose to the sun more, the more you are ending up with a problem. So here we need something really light to digest, so easy to digest. At the same time, the food should be nourishing in nature. Okay, light to digest, easy to digest, I agree. If you take easy to digest food, this weak Agni can manage it and digest it. But that is not all the requirement. We are drained of energy. I need my energy boost. I need a quick replenishment of my energy. So I need to eat a light to digest food. At the same time, that light to digest food should give me a good amount of nutritional value. So what can I do? What is the so easy to digest, but full of nutritional value? What happened to all the flowers of Vasanta Ritu or the spring season? All the flowers turned into fruits. Okay, there is abundance of fruits in this season. You all agree? Sweet in taste, easy to digest, liquid in nature. If someone gives you a hard, heavy food in summer season, you will have a preference. Can you give me something to drink, liquid in nature? You see the hot countries, they have tender coconut water, tender coconut trees. You will not see coconut trees in a cold country. Do you have coconut trees in your country in a predominantly cold region? No. But you go to Mexico, you go to Maldives, you go to India, even in parts of USA where the country is hot, you will see coconut trees, correct? But what do you do in the UK? You get Tetra packs of tender coconut water, correct or not? You consume tender coconut water because it is told that it has a lot of nutritional value. Does that make sense to drink tender coconut water? Absolutely not. You don't require it. The nature is not directing you to eat that. So liquid in nature, sweet in taste, easy to digest. The nature gives you a lot of fruits. Sweet in taste. Watermelon, for example. When does watermelon available in nature? Or many of the melons are available in Grishma, summer season. If your country is predominantly cold, the range of fruits are less. If your country is predominantly warm, you see the countries like Thailand, Indonesia, India, Sri Lanka, the range of fruits is unimaginable. Agree? I don't know the range of fruits native to your country. Maybe you might have, but you not have a big range as we have it here in India because there is no necessity. But what we do, you import the fruits from the summers of all the countries, summers of South America, Chile, etc. You get your fruits. You eat your fruit breakfast around the year. Is that correct? It's absolutely wrong. Because we believe that fruits have so much of nutrition value. Fruit is good. But we don't respect the season. Our grandparents, our ancestors did not use fruits, did not take fruits 365 days because they were following Ayurveda without knowing what Ayurveda is, because they are following the principles of nature. Okay. So the summer drains you out. Your energy is the worst. Your digestive capability is also so poor. Okay. Then the summer turns into rainy season, or during summer, there is a temporary drop in the temperature. This temporary drop in the temperature is creating an unusual phenomenon in nature, that the nature's producers are disturbed. Water is of course contaminated. Okay. Where this is a period where Ayurveda tells not to use river water, not to use water of stagnated bodies. Instead, take groundwater or water from the well, bore well water is suggested in rainy season. Shastra recommends to drink only warm water in this, boiled water in this season, because of the chances of contamination and to support the digestive fire. The digestive fire which is disturbed in the summer season, it does not get any conducive factor for an increase. Rather, there are more complication that is happening in a rainy season, because there is a phenomenon called Amla Vipaka. It's difficult to explain what Amla Vipaka is for a non-Ayurveda community, but to explain you, there is it's not poisoning phenomena, nothing like poisoning, but things turns abnormal because of a dramatic transition between hot and cold. Okay, there is a sharp difference of temperature on a sharp, bright, hot, sunny day. When you get a strong rain, a good rain, there is a sharp change in the temperature. That the environment becomes really hot to really cold. That dramatic change in the temperature or the dramatic change in the weather causes a negative phenomenon in the environment and also in the body, which destroys the digestive fire furthermore. Okay, so the worst season among the all is a rainy season. Okay, so the food should be really simple. The food should be really simple. At the same time, the food should not be having so much of predominance of sweetness contributed by the fruits, etc. in the season, but it can be partially sweet. So the regimen in this rainy season, of course, food regimen, yes, we will be following in the next session. But when it comes to the lifestyle regimen, maybe when I talk about the lifestyle regimen, I just want to take you through another sequence of events. I told you in winter, underground cellar. You remember? In winter season, the Shastra suggests one to live in an underground cellar, non-ventilated, fired up with the fireplace and the arrangement explained in the texts. In spring season, the explanation seen for our daily living is spending the day in the woods, that is in the parks, etc., where there are big and tall trees, where the sun rays are not directly falling on you, because enjoying the pleasantness of the weather. Enjoy the pleasantness of the weather, but don't expose to the heat of spring. Enjoy the pleasantness, don't expose to the heat. When it comes to summer, the nights of the summer, it is suggested to be spent on the terrace. Sleep on the terrace, enjoying the moon, provided you don't have mosquitoes. Sleep on the terrace, enjoying the moon, the silvery white moon, enjoying the coolness of the moon. During the day, enjoy near the water bodies, have a temporary water arrangements, beautiful explanations. For example, if you have seen some Indian historic films, you will be seeing in those kings period, there will be some water bodies, flow of fountains kind of an arrangement. So arrangement of fountains, etc. inside the house. The concept is to have a temporary cool environment. When it comes to rainy season, there is a beautiful explanation that the Shastra recommends one Harmya Prashte, that is living. The Sanskrit explanation is live on the first floor of the house. Don't live on the ground floor of the house. Live on the first floor of the house. Why? The ground floor of the house will have a coldness, because we know that the mist, etc., the coldness will get saturated on the bottom. It will not go to the top. The top will not have that misty, cold environment. So live on the first floor. That is escape from the temporary coldness created by the nature. So you have an all-inclusive concept of room heaters explained in the winter season. You have a provision for enjoying the nature judiciously in spring season, a provision for air conditioners and air coolers in summer season. Conceptually, I'm not telling Ayurveda recommends air coolers and air conditioners, but conceptually you can understand that there is a provision. In those days, thousands and thousands of years before, there were no air conditioners, but they gave an arrangement, they gave a logic to enjoy a similar temperature. Okay, so there is no harm in using an air conditioner or a room heater, but It has to be judiciously used, appropriately used, moderately used. We go beyond moderation. That is the biggest problem. So coming to the rainy season, again, rainy season, escape from the temporary coldness, because that sudden change of heat to cold creates a lot of havoc in the digestive system, in the health of the person, in the immunity of the person. All that is compromised. Okay. This is the season where one has to include a lot of medicinal stuff also in the food. Okay. Those of you who know this Ayurveda treatments, in our tradition, undergoing Ayurveda treatments and improving one's health with herb porridges. It's a tradition in South India to take lot of herbal porridges in this season when there are rains around. There are a lot of regimen also, we call it as Karkadika regimen, where traditionally we follow some dietary practices where there are a lot of medicinal stuff included in our food. And this has become famous that a lot of people started undergoing Ayurveda treatments during this period because there is a need of support. But unfortunately, what has happened is this commercialization is bringing people from all over the world to come to Kerala to undergo this regimen of rainy season. Does it make sense? For a person who has lived the winter, spring, summer, and who has reached the rainy season, there are a lot of disturbances happening in the body. If he undergoes a regimen, a solid regimen to improve himself, that makes sense. But a person who lived in a totally different climatic condition, when he comes to the cold, rainy season of Kerala or Tamil Nadu to undergo an Ayurveda treatment, it is absolute bullshit and nonsense. If you come for an Ayurveda treatment or if you undergo a treatment in your rainy season, that makes sense. I hope you are following me. Okay. So do not, again, the Agni, the digestive fire and the capability of a person, the energy of a person and the immunity of a person is also compromised here. So don't push yourself too much. Don't exercise. Don't push yourself too much. Be careful. Don't expose to the water. Boil your water. All that has to be followed. Okay. And when it comes, and again, one more point in Grishmas, there is a strict contradiction. Grishma, there is a strict contradiction for alcohol. Alcohol has to be prohibited. Whereas when it comes to Varsha, the summer, the rainy season, there is a provision for alcohols which have is fermented, like wines, etc. There is a small provision for one to have alcohols like wine, kind of an alcohol, which is slightly supportive in nature, supportive to the digestive system. But that wines are majorly medicinal preparations like aristas. So I'm not just giving you a provision to take alcohol. Maybe you will get it clarified in the next session when we go deeper. Okay. Sorry, I'm extending. The topic is not yet over. I need maybe 5-10 minutes more to cover the last season, that is Sharat. 5-10 minutes to discuss about it and conclude too. Okay. So we have enjoyed some temporary coldness when the water around us, the rainwater around us has dried up, and when the clouds have moved away, again the sun's rays get stronger. Agree? And the environment becomes a little more warm. When the environment gets a little more warmed up. When the environment gets a little more warmed up, all that happens in the body is that the digestive fire slowly picks up, because there is a phenomenon called Dakshinayana, Uttarayana and Dakshinayana, northern solstice, southern solstice. I am not touching that because I need 1.5 hours to make you understand that phenomenon, how it works. For now, for you to understand, you have to understand it and implement it. For you to implement, you need not understand this concept of northern and southern solstice, Dakshinayana, Uttarayana. But the sun moves away from us in Dakshinayana. Okay, the sun moves closer to us in Uttarayana. This is the most simplest way I can explain. The sun moves away from us in Dakshinayana. The sun moves away. The heat of autumn is not similar to the heat of summer. Correct? Summer is very hot. Autumn is not that hot. You agree to me? And you are getting prepared for winter. It's slightly colder. I would not tell it is colder, but it is not that hot. So the Agni is slowly picking up. There is no too much component. So the Agni is getting better. When the Agni is getting better, you have a provision to accommodate little more food. During the rainy season, all the climbers and creepers have grown very well, so that you have all vegetables from the climbers and creepers, like gods, ridge god, bitter god, snake god, bottle god. All the gods will be available in plenty. There will be lot of vegetables that has bitter and astringent taste predominant in nature. Okay, so the nature is directing you to eat that bitter and astringent food in this season. Okay, so one can slowly get back to some limited exercises, getting prepared for a regimen, strong exercise regimen, etc. of the winter season. Okay, so this is the trend of it. I hope you understand the trend of this season. And if you have any doubts which made you not understand the sequence, etc., I'll be happy to take extra 5-10 minutes or so to clarify it. And the next session is going to be a continuation of this. We are going to see the food that is being suggested and the logic that is being told for the logic that is being proposed. And we will also see what is implementable for you, what is practically implementable for you, what should be practically followed. Not that it is possible to follow, not that it will be possible to follow everything that we see, but what can be practically implemented, what are the implementable aspects. Please explain season with spices. I told you, I gave you a simplified understanding that in a cold country, in a winter predominant country, the usage of spices will be very less, because spices are usually substances which aid in the digestive process. Do you all know it? Do you all agree with that? Spices help us in the digestive process. Agree? So in winter, how is the digestive fire of a person? How is the digestive fire of a person in winter? Excellent, very good. When the digestive fire is very good and excellent, do you need any support? No, you don't require spices. That is why cold countries have bland food habits. But in winters, how is the digestive fire? Digestive fire is the poorest in summer and rainy season, correct? In summer and rainy season, the digestive fire is so poor that we need external support, and we need the spices pitching in to support our digestive process. And that is the reason you see a place like India, we bombard our meal with spices, because we need support, because our country is predominantly summer oriented. Your country is predominantly winter oriented. Our country is predominantly summer oriented. I hope that that gave you a clarity. Thank you so much. So does that mean that no fruits for UK in the late winter? Of course, yes. Just see if the nature around you is giving some fruits. If the nature is giving some fruit, and that fruit should be an exceptional fruit, which is a heavy to digest fruit. Does nature give you any fruit in winter? Anything specific? If there is a specific fruit, that should be an exceptional fruit. Wouldn't that raise pitta, which in summer is already high? In fact, in summer, pitta is not raised. The phenomenon for people who know what Vata, Pitta, Kapha is, in summer or Grishma, Vata undergoes Chaya. You can see here, V Chaya. Vata undergoes Chaya. And that Chaya is a susceptible increase, slightly increasing, not creating a problem. That Vata undergoes in rainy season. Pitta undergoes Chaya. I told you a dramatic phenomenon of heat to cold. I'm sorry. There is a dramatic phenomenon called Amla Vipaka, which happens because of a dramatic transition of heat to cold that creates a slight susceptibility for Pitta. This Pitta goes to the peak in Sharad or autumn season. And that is the reason Ayurveda suggests bitter and astringent substances, ghee, etc., to be taken in autumn season to handle Pitta. So Pitta is not the factor that is disturbed in summer season, as per the Shastra. Should we not eat cloves and cinnamon in winter? You can. I'm not telling you should not, but there will be minimal usage of that. You need not intentionally add it. If there is a requirement, you can add it. Apples in autumn. Yeah, specific fruit in autumn. You see, specific fruit. Apple is the only fruit or one of the few fruits that is available in autumn season. That tells you that apple is a right choice in autumn season to handle the Pitta. That's the beauty. So as I told you, the conclusion of this session is whatever that is required for you will be available around you. Whatever that is available around you is the most suited food for you. It will take care of all the problems that is happening because of the changes that is happening in the nature. Okay. Nature undergoes the struggle. If the nature undergoes the struggle, you also undergo the same struggle. The nature knows its way to get back to normalcy. We have lost that connection and hence we are here. I store the apples as they last through the winter. See, storing the apple, for example, when you have a lot of fruits in summer, you have a provision to preserve the fruits, dry up the fruits, and make it into something else. For example, in our place, when we have an abundance of jackfruit, an abundance of this mangoes, etc., they prepare jams out of it. Even your country, when you have fruits in abundance, you prepare jams. Jams add sugars and things like that, which makes it a little more heavier to digest. So you take the fruits, but in a little heavy to digest form or in a more nourishing form, and that is the best suited food for winter. So if you prepare an apple jam or stuff like that and preserve it, yes, of course, the nature is allowing you to do that. I feel much more energetic during the winter, want to exercise a lot. And winter, I feel drained of energy, exact opposite of what you do. Very few people can have this kind of exceptions. These exceptions are maybe because that you have a like 40 people in here, maybe one might have this scenario. There are two reasons. You might have a unique composition, what we call as Prakriti composition, which can make you feel this. If you are a Vata predominant person, etc., you might experience this. Or two, you might have a physical problem which can make you enjoy this. Maybe if at all you have a Kapha related problems, then you might have a lethargic winter and an energetic summer. Okay, maybe kapha related problems, meaning you might have some metabolic disorders, digestive disorders, or you have some long-standing diabetes and things like that. Immigrate to hot country to cold country? Yes, there is a phenomenon that Ayurveda explains. I will be touching that when we are in food. There are two more people who are explaining that they feel energetic so what your is a winter predominant country. When a winter predominant country, in a winter predominant country, you can understand that the overall energy levels of a person as a country is good. The overall energy levels. When your summers are very small, you don't suffer the harshness of summer. Correct? Your summers are very small. When we tell that your summers are very small, you don't get exposed to the harshness of the summer as we get exposed in India. Okay, I told you the sun rays is going to suck your energy off. Your sun rays will suck your energy off if you have a summer which is a pretty long summer as you have it here in India, or if it is a scorching summer as it happens here. But in your case, summer is a part of spring, I would tell. Summer is not a scorching summer. So there is a possibility that you don't get drained as one would get drained in India. So if that is the scenario, the nature's produces, I have already mentioned it, the amount and variety of fruits that we get will not be available in your country because you are not that drained. Your digestive system is not that compromised. See, when your digestive system is not compromised, you are not that drained. You don't require that kind of fruits which are easy to digest and fruits that are nutritive in nature. That is, fruits that are nourishment providing in nature. So that will clarify and justify the logic. Traditionally, more active sports in UK in winter. Yes, that justifies. Wonderful. So good, nice session. I enjoyed the session interacting with the doubts and stuff like that. So we went 15 minutes past our proposed time. We'll see you tomorrow. So thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the messages. Shall we sum it up with a small prayer? Yeah, let us all sit erect. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Namaste. Thank you so much for all the messages. Thanks a lot. Namaste.